In the past two episodes, I've been grateful to talk with Michael Sanini, my dear friend and neighbor. We've talked about attachment theory and generational trauma and how it manifested in Michael's life. We have also kind of established what creates a disorganized, attached individual based off of Michael's story and some of the things that are aligned with theory and his actual life. And in this part, we'll talk more about his relationships and the way that they have unfolded over the years. So stay tuned for the last part of episodes with Michael Sanini. Welcome to Becoming Secure with Max Mindset. We haven't really talked so much about, well, we've talked a lot about your family, where you kind of came from and where this attachment style kind of came from, but we haven't talked at all about how this actually manifested itself in your actual relationships. I do know that you were in one relationship, not so recent, but a few years ago, where your partner cheated on you. Is that the only relationship you were in, or do you have kind of more reference onto where this how this manifested?
As a kid, your typical dating stuff, right? But I've probably had maybe 4 serious, long-termish relationships in my life. And again, back to some of the stuff that happened to me as a kid we were talking about, right? Like, that was a big epiphany I had. I've always been very private in my relationship life. Like, my relationships are my relationships, and my friendships are my friendships, and my family stuff's my family stuff. And I've always compartmentalized them in those 3 ways, right? Once in a while, my friends might hang out with my family, right? Once in a while, my friends might hang out with some of the girls I'm dating. But generally, I always kept those relationships separate, right? And that's one aspect of how I feel some of this attachment style stuff and my childhood upbringing has kept me, because I lived in 2 different places, right? So as a kid, I might have some girls I'm liking or dating in Stockton, and then I'm in Modesto, right? And the same thing, since I'm spending more time there, there's for sure that's where my first childhood relationships were. But because I lived in 2 places, I could keep things separate, right? And same thing with friend groups. I would have, there's my Modesto friends and there's my Stockton friends. Or when I moved to the Bay Area, I had my Bay Area friends, and once in a while they might intermix, but I always just compartmentalized and kept it separate because I had moved a lot, right? And had these separate groups, and they just were always separate. And even my dad's side of the family never, like, besides one of my aunt and uncles on my dad's side, they never intertwined with my mom's side of the family, right? And so I've just always had this compartmentalization aspect to relationships. And then, if in that disorganized stuff, right? A lot of that self-fulfilling prophecy, a lot of that fear of the inevitability, and then it actually happens, the fear of abandonment and stuff, has caused you to not open up too much, right? Which is also why I think it's led into my keeping things separate in that aspect, But as far as my long-term relationships go, as a kid, had a relationship in high school where a girl cheated on me. And then, in my after high school years, had a relationship with Stockton, and that was really healthy, and that one was great. And then back to the Bay Area, had another relationship in my younger early 20s, that was really great. And then, I find school, start my life, get into a different career, and that has me move to San Francisco. In San Francisco, I had a girl I was dating for a while, and after a couple really good relationships, I'm feeling really good about this when I'm older in my life, so I start leaning into it a little more in that older aspect, and start thinking of things long-term and serious, and maybe this is the girl I finally start introducing to my family. Maybe this is the girl where it's actually serious, and I can see it being truly long-term, not just a year or something. And then I find out she's cheating on me, right? And so it just becomes that self-fulfilling prophecy where it's like, why I haven't had any serious relationships or actually dated anyone, pretty much since the pandemic. Again, there's girls in Lodi, Stockton area, I had some time with, and there's the random instances where I have a one night stand at the bar or something, or at a party or something. But generally I've just stayed away from dating because the pandemic made it a weird time. And then coming back from that, I just have this fear of a self-fulfilling prophecy where it's like I'm just either going to fall for someone and it's not going to be enough, and thus it's never going to actually go anywhere, or if I do, they're going to cheat on me. Because the 2 times in my life where I ever felt like I was ready to lean in and make it true and something more, I've been cheated on, and a lot of that stuff in the disorganized, attachment style just really clicked and made a lot of sense where I could finally start seeing, I read this thing where it was like, the reason why it's a self-fulfilling prophecy is because you fear this end result's going to happen. So not only while you're going through, in this example, a relationship, right, the endings, so you're never truly going to be yourself. You're never truly open up in certain ways, right? You're going to try to avoid and stay away from this stuff. You're going to do things with that in mind. That's going to create the scenario and the conditions where that end actually happens.
Right.
And not only that, going into that, the type of people you seek out, right? Back to what we were talking about with the mother stuff and all these type of people you may be, finding that attraction to. A big part of it is in your brain. So you're seeking out these people that are also going to help to lead to the conditions that are going to cause you to do the things that will lead to that end result. And that's how it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. Back to your change the narrative and the power of positive thinking, right? If you think this and you do this, then this will probably happen. And you do that, maybe that will happen. And that's one of the things that opened me up when I was doing my reading on it.
I'm so happy that you're doing this. I mean, obviously, this is like crack for me, like having these kind of conversations, because this is so true for many people. Like, obviously, this is an extreme version for you because of your story, but there's people out there who can relate to your story. I mean, heck, there's a bunch of people from Stockton and Modesto, or people who have history of abuse or alcoholic parents, like this might just be separate for people, but like it's relatable to some extent, and I just want to de-weaponize the healing process. I want to help impact so that people see the value in having these conversations and to being introspective, and to tracing back the steps to when you were a child, not to all of a sudden make your childhood something that was terrible and awful or something that you need to be angry at, but slightly to acknowledge where you came from and recognize how it impacted the way that you attach as an adult, because the only way you can kind of recover from it, right, is to be able to make peace with your past, and the fact that you're putting in the work and you're doing what you're doing now, and hopefully inspiring more men to also be vulnerable, because it kind of teaches people that like you said, it's just an unpracticed muscle. It's just about repeating this workout, essentially.
Yeah, and I think a lot of it too, like I was saying, with my mother, right? Or my father, they do these things, they act this way, so you learn to navigate them, right? And you learn to adapt. I think a big part of acknowledging how these things, have helped develop you and make you who you are. There's a lot of our parents in us, whether we like it or not.
Yeah.
And that's been true, I think, over time. I can then learn to navigate my own landmines, right?
Right, yeah.
My own patterns. And I can learn to, not trigger certain things, or when I need to, like I was talking about, maybe step on that landmine and make it go off, right? But if I can see it and learn it and adapt to it in other people, what I'm learning through this stuff, is I can put that mirror up to myself, right? I can learn to see and adapt to myself, and then maybe that'll give me the space, to grow and improve, like I'm talking about, and build those skills and those train of thoughts and those muscles.
You're doing it. You're already doing it. You've been doing it. I think what we fail to do in the process of healing is recognize how far we've come, and you've come so far. Like and I know this because I've spent the last 6 months with you. Every week we hang out. You know, by the one exception when I was in Norway and you were in Italy. You know, like we hang out all the time when I'm not traveling for work. So I have seen this consistent growth in you. That there's a lot of little things that you've started to do. You know, like what happens when you start loving yourself is that you start wanting to take care of yourself, and that's also one thing that you're doing. You've started working out. You've started focusing on the things that you are in control over because well, I know this because we've had a conversation about the fact that, like, well, if you are afraid of attracting a certain type of woman because of your fear to repeat history, you know, in your own upbringing and do that to your own children.
What you're getting at, right, is if I am looking for that and grow into something else, like I said, you know, I create the conditions where this is going to happen mentally. The conditions are there for this to happen. If I change myself and start from a different starting point, i.e. grow and be better in multifaceted ways in all aspects, then the conditions are different.
You become what you are trying to attract. Exactly. Mm-hmm. And you're kind of already doing these things. And I think what's important for you to do in the process is to remind yourself of the progress that you're making and remind yourself that, like, you're actually doing it right now. It doesn't have to be so messy all the time. It doesn't need to look so defined, you know? We're constantly growing. And the more we talk, like, just through this conversation, I'm sure that, like, there's going to be some aftermath realizations for you where you're kind of thinking about some of the things that we've talked about, and it kind of leads to some sort of like other realization down the line. You'll have so many of these epiphany moments when you're, oh, that's why that happened, or oh, now I'm realizing that I'm doing this thing again, and you start to notice your patterns, you start to notice your blind spots. Now I'm starting to do this thing again when I'm pushing away, or now I'm doing this thing again when I'm trying to avoid, or now I'm doing this thing again when I'm trying to push it away, you know? And you remind yourself in those moments that, like, oh, okay, yeah, now I'm just on this part of the path where it starts to get hard, and I'm doing this self-fulfilling prophecy, or I'm doing this pattern again. And then you retrace and you build this muscle like we've talked about now. So
yeah, I agree. Yeah, how I've been looking at it is like when you're a kid, right, you don't like the way certain things taste, you know? And while I'm an adult, it's just a metaphor, right? Like before I started, you know, thinking about these things and working on my mental health and trying to not only work on my mental health, but have that work improve me as a man. You know, it's like developing my palate. I didn't like these things as a kid. Well, then you get older and you know what you like through experience and through growth, right? And then you develop your palate, your taste buds, right? And then I can know when I look at all these things what I actually want. Right, instead of wasting my time trying to taste a million things, I can just go for the things that I really know that I want and need in developing, you know, those taste buds, right? And that with relationships and women, right, or friends, you know, or whatever it may be, I'm gonna know what I actually want,
right,
what I think I want,
yep,
right. I'm gonna know what's actually good to me. Not just looks good and may be good, right? But when I consume this, the end result's going to be not only me being nourished, me enjoying that nourishment.
It's actually quite interesting, that narrative, because I was thinking about this myself the other day.
But real quick, my taste buds aren't there yet, right? And that's why it's hard because I'm tasting all these things and I don't know what I like and I don't know what I want in that metaphor. And then, you know, that's what I'm hoping through more education on this stuff. I will develop the taste bud, but now I don't, and that's why it's hard.
Well, we use your latest experience. What has that situation taught you?
Like I was saying, I had been cut off. You know, I don't like most people in general, so it's hard for me to really like somebody. Let alone, you know, in cutting myself off from becoming an orphan, and the pandemic happens, and then a lot of my family members die, and then a lot of my friends die, and then the relationships, you know, before all that, you know, had already fallen apart. You know, I had been cut off to a lot of things, and as a coping mechanism, I had like cut myself off to even looking for certain things and certain people. But I had through you, I had met somebody recently, you know, that just like cut through all that shit, and I couldn't help but like this person. I couldn't help but develop a certain feeling towards this person, and that in concert with what I'm, you know, learning not only about myself, but through mental health practices and tools and coping stuff, it's helped me know, you know, that I can love again, right? Because I had cut myself off to that stuff.
Yeah.
I can get that spark again because I had, that self-fulfilling prophecy. Like, I'm never going to find someone that makes me feel that way ever. And not only did that happen, it like was to the umpteenth degree,
Yeah.
even more than any previous thing before, which is kind of weird, but also nice,
Yeah.
to meet someone that,
Yeah.
it's like the movie stuff. I don't know why, but I really like this person.
Yeah. I mean, it taught you that, oh, this person that I'm looking for, the qualities that I'm looking for in a person, it was just proven to you that this person exists out there. And the narrative that's important to have here is that like the person exists out there.
Maybe that might not be the exact person that would be best for me, right? So I don't know if I should look for that person in other people.
Right.
But there are people out there that are worth looking for, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because
now I can take some of what made that spark happen, and if I ever see it again, well, now I know that there's a spark out there for me, right?
Yeah.
Again, you got to find something different, right? If you got to move on, but knowing that there's a light at the end of the tunnel for me, possibly there, because actually, there's 8 billion people on this planet. There's got to be another person that can do that to me out there, right? That can make you feel that way. And so maybe it is worth continuing to search, and not being so self-defeatist all the time.
Yeah.
And that's what that, taught me.
I'm so happy to hear that you've come to that place. Because I remember there was a time where you were almost angry that you'd even met her, right?
I still I am.
Okay. Well, okay, you were
true.
Got you. Two things can be true.
But yeah, no, and that's pretty not a healthy way to probably look at it, right? Because like we were talking about, when you're going through things and you're working it out in your head, and you're not used to that. You're not used to embracing those things and working through it, so it's not there anymore. And doing that shit sucks. It's heavy. And there was that moment where I was talking to you, and I was like, then I think I even told her that at one point when we were hanging out. Like, yeah, I wish I had never actually met this person, because then I wouldn't feel like there's somebody out there for me and I can't have them, right?
Yeah.
But also, like, I didn't cut myself off to those feelings. Back to the muscle thing, I was never even using that muscle. So
Yeah.
I didn't even have no weakness.
Yeah.
I mean, someone exposed a huge weakness in you. Fuck.
Yeah. No.
I don't want to be weak. I don't want to have. Now I have to fucking work on this muscle.
Yeah.
And let alone I didn't even know it existed. I wasn't like, this is bullshit, But again, once you process through that stuff and you take it in a healthy, or you work through it in a healthy manner, and you take it to a positive end result, right? You realize it's not about that person. It's about me and what I want out of a person. It isn't. It's not about that person. It's about me and what I need to do to be open to finding more people that can make me feel.
Yeah, you're 100% right. And while you're talking right now, a realization that came to mind is that, like, why, how it's hard to go to the gym. It's hard to work out and like create like a structure and discipline that allows you to have this routine where you're working out X amount of times a week, right? Like, we both know that's hard. It's not easy to kind of like master that, but a lot of us still do it because like it's a physical thing. It's a physical outwards appearance kind of thing. People can see whether or not you go to the gym. You know what I mean? People can see whether or not you take care of yourself from like an outwards perspective. But what nobody can see your mental health necessarily. Of course, if you're
there's
a
no
professional,
Instagram posts of you
right,
working your mind out through therapy, right?
Exactly.
Like there is when you're hitting
exactly,
the mirror,
exactly.
Doing squats.
It's easier to just shy away from that work because people don't necessarily see it so clearly on you whether or not you're working on it or not. There's
also, with men and maybe it's just my upbringing and where I'm from, but I bet a lot of men would say this across economic or social or racial lines. You're not encouraged to like you're weak for doing,
right?
Like you're gay for going to therapy,
right?
It's a big trope.
Yeah,
that's gay. That's homo.
Yeah, I mean, you're right. That's true. I know it's a lot of that's
so not only shouldn't you do it, right? If you do, you can't put it out there like you can when I go to the gym. In some cultures, some people feel they can't. I mean, I should say, So we do need to change that.
Yeah.
We do need to.
You're helping change it at this moment.
Working on your mind, just like people take Instagram posts of them doing squats in their Spanx,
Yeah.
hitting dumbbells in the mirror. We should glamorize.
And also, you don't see people hitting the dumbbells in the mirror when they first started out. You see it when they're already looking semi-good. You know what I mean? When they're already in this part of their journey, when they're already looking kind of good. That's when they start posting that shit. You don't see the beginning stages when they were either overweight or just super skinny with no muscle. You know what I mean? That's also a part of it. We don't really see the beginning stages of it because it took a certain amount of determination to get to that point, and then when you start to feel confident, that's when that shit publishes on Instagram, Yeah. But I realized that we've already talked for a really long time. So I would love to kind of make this into 2 different sessions in the sense that, like, I believe that there's probably things that we're talking about in this conversation that might kind of like start this process in you that might change the answer to a lot of like dating questions in 2 weeks. You know what I mean? Like, you might actually have a different view on it. So I'm thinking we wrap it up here, but I'm so grateful for you being able to sit down and have this conversation with me. This is seriously a dream come true for me, and I hope that you, first and foremost, as a result, will feel better about this. And I really hope that it would also inspire and trigger something in the people who are listening to this, and encouraging them to also look inwards and recognize that you can all accomplish what you want to accomplish if you listen to what you truly want and get out of your own way and start believing that you're worthy of what you want, and also creating a narrative that supports that and that actually will help you accomplish exactly that.
Well, thanks for having me.
Absolutely.
Thank you for this conversation. Maybe I'm lucky just because I randomly through Ivan, became your friend, right?
Oh, and God makes no mistakes.
And, I feel lucky, right? Because I wouldn't be putting as much work into this if you weren't my friend, right? If I didn't know you, so thank you for taking the time to talk to me, thank you for doing what you do, because, it's my proximity to his help, fair time as well.
Absolutely. And also on that note, and I'm going to take the liberty here because I know that you and I both are more religious and have religious beliefs. So I want to take this opportunity to just kind of say that, because this will actually mean something to you. I know a lot of people that, listen, this isn't going to make a whole lot of sense to people who aren't religious necessarily or can't relate to this on a deeper level, but God's plan is perfect. We both know this. And God knows everything that you've been through. God knows exactly what your journey has been, and God knew exactly when to put me into your life. God makes no mistakes. There's no coincidences here. You came into my life at a perfect time on my own journey, and I came into your life exactly on when it was perfect for your journey. And that's how we know that God's plan is perfect. And that's also how you can trust that you are going to accomplish everything you want to accomplish, and that you are going to get that perfect wife and that family. Like, that is 100% happening because God is in control. God has been with you your whole life, and he sees what's happening, and he sees who are capable of helping you get there. And a lot of stuff is happening internally for you, especially with also having to met this person that came into your life as a result of me coming into your life. Like, there's a ripple effect here. There's a lot of things that came as a result of me moving into that house when I did. So you can just trust that you're exactly where you're supposed to be on your journey. God is in control, and God's plan is perfect. So you're perfectly safe.
Amen.
Amen. If you want to come share your version of how your attachment style manifested itself in your love life, please email me on magsmindset@gmail.com. I can't wait to hear from you.